Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Shawn the Baptist Show for April 3rd, 2020. This is Friday in the third week of pandemic time. Yesterday, we had a little bit different live show. I was live 4 different ways all at one time. I was live on the radio with KEXS 1090 in Kansas City doing their annual radio pledge drive, and then I was live streaming here at Shawn the Baptist and kicking it over also to St. Patrick's page, and then they were live streaming from the radio page too. So yesterday was a big day indeed, and today we're going to kind of regroup a little bit here back in the home studio at St. Patrick's Parish. And if you saw the promo tonight, we are joined by yet another guest. You remember we had Harrison Butker, the Chiefs kicker, on last week, and that got such rave reviews to have a guest on that I thought I would bring in yet another guest. And so tonight we are pleased to have with us in studio, all the way from, well, across the hall, really. He lives against me. We are here with Father Mark Mertes, the pastor of St. Patrick Catholic Church. Welcome, Father Mark. Good to have you with us again.
Thank you, Shawn. Father Shawn, good to be here. You didn't mention that I was actually booted off of the Harrison Butker show. You didn't mention that part.
Well, this, sadly, full disclosure, I had invited Father Mark to be on the Shawn the Baptist show last week, and then we had Harrison Butker on, which was
I'm okay with that.
It was a little bit bigger get.
He's big,
to be honest. So welcome, Father Mark. Good to have you on.
And then I was scheduled another time to come, and the power went out.
Yeah, that was really strange. The internet went out for our entire neighborhood. So
I'm very happy to be here.
It is great to finally have you on the Shawn the Baptist show tonight. So you have a hat on, Father Mark.
This is not a hat that you might have seen around our political scene, but this is actually a Jesus Caritas Fraternity of Priests hat. And one of the things I was hoping to share, Father Shawn, I have had the privilege of being involved with a group of priests, diocesan priests around the world, called Jesus Caritas Fraternity of Priests. I know that there are several of our priests in our diocese participate in this. It's an organization, a association of diocesan priests, and we meet. The goal is to meet in a small group once a month and to pray, review your life, and then we have some other aspects of our life that we try to emphasize, which include Eucharistic adoration, trying to remember those on the margins of society. And it's all based on the life of Charles de Foucauld. And so I received this hat. Let's see, I got to learn how to do this here on the...
Yeah, there you go.
Jesus Caritas.
There it is.
And that is from the writing of, that's what Brother Charles de Foucauld, who is the animator of this priestly association. We're actually called a pious association. I believe that's our canonical
Very
term.
Canonical.
Yes.
Thank you for using the correct term. Pious association of the
of clerics.
Of clerics. A clerical private association of the faithful, something like that.
So we are official with Rome. There's about 4,600 priests around the world that participate, and we have about 1,000 in the U.S. of A., and we have I'd say about 50 of our guys, and we meet once a month. And so we talk about our lives, we review our lives, we pray together, and we always eat together too, which is interesting because Charles, he did not eat all that much at all. But where I got this hat was at the International Assembly 1 year ago in the Philippines. I had the privilege to be on an international committee, and it was, as my sister told me, it was a great committee to be on because I got to go somewhere in the world once a year. And we had meetings in France, we had meetings in Spain, India, Madagascar, India, and finally the Philippines. And so I received this hat last year when we were in our assembly in the Philippines. And that's what I asked Father Shawn if I could share, because when we were there, the priests like to communicate with one another through WhatsApp. It's a very popular app among the priests around the world. And so we have and I don't normally get out my device, but I just wanted to maybe read you a few things because all of the priests have been weighing in on how they are living the pandemic all throughout the world.
Oh, so you have your international connections that you can give us like live on the ground updates almost from anywhere in the world.
Pretty much. For example, this one was, and I'm not going to try and show it, but Father Shawn will maybe see it. This is a little video here where It was a video just of in Spain. This is where Father Aurelio lives. He was our leader. And it's two ladies who come out of a pharmacy and they go out into the empty town square, and all the people come out on their balconies and are applauding them, saying, "Bravo, bravo." And the woman she'll spend a minute dancing around the public square because they're in lockdown. And I just, bravo, bravo. And it's just, that was just one example. But the other thing is that the priests are sending their kind of what they're doing to respond to the coronavirus in different countries. And it's fascinating because it comes in, our assembly was in, generally we had the meeting in English, French, and Spanish, but also Italian and Portuguese. And so there's reports here from all over the world.
It looks like you got from Spain there, or where is that?
That's Aurelio's, yes. That
Aurelio's, okay.
Aurelio he was our leader. He then shared from Burkina Faso in Africa. He shared that a friend of his in Burkina Faso had come down with the virus, who was a bishop, so that was in Africa. And then one of my friends, who is Father Jean-Francois in France. I'd read this to you in French, but they make a lot of fun of my French. And
French is very hard to pronounce. I can read it because of like Spanish and Latin and things, but you don't go pronouncing French without knowing what you're doing, or people make fun of you.
Would you want to try and read that one there? Because you can read it.
This is French.
Well, yeah, I thought you said you could read French.
Bonjour, segundo je vivant de regarder les nouvelles des victimes du virus corona en Italie.
This is coming from a man in Belgium who's talking to the priest in Spain, in Italy, saying, "We are with you." And then my friend Jean-Francois says, I'll just translate it, and also from the other side of the Alps, we feel solidarity with your fight against, and all the good solidarities that creant. I don't know what that means. I believe that we are living a fantastic mutation of this human drama that touches all humanity. The community of suffering and the community of fighting against the illness can bring us to a new way of universal brotherhood. And the disciples of Brother Charles de Foucauld, that's my hat, Jesus Caritas, can feel quite at one with this great movement. Let us remain united in prayer and in solidarity. And that's from Jean-Francois. And when I read that from him, I just thought, that is so true. The world, we spend so much time talking about how we are different and divided from and opposed from, but this virus really has pointed out to me that we are all united in the cross of Christ. And I mean every human person, and those of us who have the gift of faith and the gift of being called to worship and follow Christ and serve Christ, it is our particular privilege to celebrate that truth. But I believe this points out how the truth, it's a worldwide, universal truth, our unity in the cross of Christ.
And I was thinking about that the other night on the show, when it is strange that we are united throughout the world in a way that I'm not sure what else has really done that. We think of those great times like the Olympics, maybe, where kind of the world gathers and we watch the world of sport in the Olympics, or I tend to think though that what other event in our lives has united us in such a way that everyone is focused on kind of the same thing and not even thinking about the same thing. Like at 9/11, we were all kind of throughout the world, maybe at least for that day, looking at New York and wondering, but we're actually all experiencing kind of the same thing. Fear about this virus, fear of what will we do. We're seeing people die, and it doesn't discriminate based on, our gender or ethnic.
No respecter of persons.
It's equally affecting everybody. It's not like one race is more immune than another. Our elderly are perhaps more susceptible to even that. We're seeing now that maybe young people are being attacked too. It's really affecting everybody in the whole world in a way that it's kind of a shared experience, which is a strange kind of blessing almost. That I don't know what else has been able to do that.
Another observation I've made about it from just a spiritual perspective, Father Michael, who lives here with us, he's very concerned about the arrival of the coronavirus in his home country, Myanmar, because they don't have the health infrastructure to take care of it. He shared with me that I think they have 13 cases. At first, they didn't have any for the longest time. But now, when someone has it, the villages have taken it upon themselves, and they will not. They're building a little hut outside the village, and if you have been because the cases came from, guess where?
Here,
the United States. And in many respects, this illness has been a scourge of those of us who have more ability to travel, more wealth, more time together in fancy places like Vail, Colorado, or other places. And we're the ones, we, meaning the collectively, have disseminated it. But it's interesting to hear how the people in his village, they're learning from the rest of the world, and they're taking really strong steps.
Yeah, it seems like if we had these little groups of people that didn't communicate with the world, like we think before modern travel, well, people would have remained isolated and somewhat safe then. The idea that a virus would probably be able to propagate around the world so quickly would not have been possible previously.
Right.
But because we are able to communicate so much now, not only can the virus spread, but so can knowledge of how to treat the virus and knowledge that it's happening. And so we in America were able to benefit from what we saw in China and elsewhere to hopefully get ahead of this a little bit. Now, you've been following the news perhaps better than I have. Do we feel like we're getting ahead of this? I felt like I heard people saying that we're like maybe 2 or even 3 weeks away from the peak of this getting bad. Is that accurate?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I try to watch what I eat, and especially is the case with the news. So I do watch the news, but I like to read. I still like to read. I'm kind of old-fashioned. I like to read the paper, and so I read the paper, and then I do like to watch the news, but I limit myself to maybe a half hour or an hour plus the paper, maybe listen a little on the radio. But no, it's very much a learning curve, learning how to understand it, and we are apparently still a week or two away from getting into the full impact.
Now, speaking of a week or two away, we're coming up on Holy Week. So a lot of the questions that the people on Shawn the Baptist Show want to know, well, the most important thing on everybody's mind right now is, of course, how do I get my palms? Different parishes are doing different things, and there are different approaches to this. But as the chief shepherd here at St. Patrick's Catholic Church in Kansas City, what has been your decision about how we will deal with the free stuff, the palms that everyone needs, because this is what you put behind your cross on your wall for the whole year? We've got palms.
We do have palms.
What are we going to do with that?
Here's what we're going to do. And our instructions from the diocese say that the blessing and distribution of palms for this year is abrogated, which means in canonical terms...
That's a fancy canonical term there for the mark.
I think it means you aren't doing it. But I assume, and am I right to assume that is the implication of doing that in some sort of liturgical rite?
Abrogated means will not take place, even quasi-forbidden. So the Archbishop has asked, and really the Holy See has asked, this is actually coming from Rome. Again, we're united, and they're saying that the normal Palm Sunday Mass is one of those Masses that's a little weird in that it normally begins in the back of the church, with that blessing, and we read a gospel about Jesus entering Jerusalem.
And this year we would have read Matthew.
Yeah, so we're not going to do that this year.
Yeah.
We are instead going to skip that, and a lot of places we'll be live streaming. We'll talk about that because we will be. But there's no blessing of the palms or anything. We just go in, and that's always an option. So liturgical commercial. There are 3 forms of the Palm Sunday entrance. One is the solemn procession, which we all like to do, and process around the neighborhood and really rejoice like they did on that first Palm Sunday. The other is that everybody stays in the church, and we do the little blessing at the back with the gospel and bless the palms, and then we all wave our branches as we come in. And then the third is actually always in the missal. It's called the simple entrance, in which you don't do any of that. You just walk in and you start, and that's what we're all going to be doing this year, which is a little strange that now we're all stuck with that. There's going to be no blessing of palms. But we're still going to bless palms, are we not?
So what we will do, Father Shawn, is tomorrow morning I will go over there, and if you want to come too, over there, meaning over to the church, over to where we have the palms hidden, which are actually in the garage right now.
Great. Now our garage will get broken into.
Well, they're
not blessed yet, people. If you break into our garage to steal the palms, they're no good.
You're supposed to store them in a cool, dry place. And there is nothing quite as cool and quite as dry as our garage. So we will bless them, and what we're simply going to do is we're going to put them out in front of the church, on the west side of the church, as if they were like a bouquet of palms, and they will be blessed, and you are welcome if you are out and about on one of your essential errands. But people do go out, I've noticed, and our church does remain open. You can certainly stop by and pick up a palm and enjoy it, or even a couple palms. We'll monitor them. We won't put them all out at once just to see. Okay. Now, one thing I did share with a group of members of our Hispanic Mass, who I met with in a Zoom last night, I talked about this, meaning, these collections are down, and so Palm Sunday is usually a big collection. We're not charging for palms, but if you wanted to, put something in the poor box, or if you had an envelope and wanted to put it in the door of the rectory on the porch, you can sure do that, and we are continuing to process whatever collections people drop off. If you have envelopes you haven't brought in, what a great trade-off. You come in, drop off your envelope, and pick up a palm. But you can have a palm. They're obviously not for sale. We don't
full liturgical canonical disclosure. The selling of holy objects that have been blessed is called simony. It's a crime. Father Mark is in no way insinuating a crime.
No.
Correct?
Right.
Okay, good. No crime by Father Mark.
So that's what we are going to do with the palms, and we hope people can come by and pick them up. The other option I've heard, and I got this from right here from one of the priests in Portugal, and the priests in Portugal said that what the people were doing is, in many parts of the world, they don't use the skinny little palms we have. Our palms are very unusual. In other parts of the world, the palms are big leafy things like elephant ears.
You see, normally if you watch the Vatican, the Pope always gets one of this big, huge palm, and
right.
Whoa, that's so weird. But you're saying that's normal around the rest of the world.
So what they're talking about doing in Portugal, and some of their lockdowns in other parts of the world are very severe, and you cannot go out under penalty of being arrested or being incarcerated or what. I don't know what they do to you. Actually, one world leader got in trouble for saying you might be shot, and then he actually had to back off of that because that was a bit overstating it. But their idea was just put out something in front of your house that is like some greenery, something that is like a palm, and so that people in the neighborhoods can commemorate Palm Sunday of the Lord's Passion. So you don't have to come by here, and you actually, I'm sure that the good Lord, if you said a blessing, ask the Lord to bless your palms and maybe sprinkle some holy water on them or something like that, in the house I'm talking about.
Oh, sure.
Mom or Dad, we're encouraged to bless our children. I'm sure we could bless something and put that out, because we really want to, as much as is possible, respect the shelter-in-place order, because that's important.
Yeah. So we are going to have palms available out the west side of the church. When are they going to be?
They'll be out there tomorrow morning, and we'll just keep them out there.
Okay, so starting Saturday morning.
Call it Saturday midday.
Okay, so we are going to bless those palms outside of the liturgy, because that's what we're asked to do.
Right.
But speaking of the Palm Sunday liturgy, we're gonna live stream it. Now so far, we've been mainly recording Mass, with here and there doing it live. But this time, the Holy See has asked us, that when we do these videos, to think about actually live streaming it. And I've talked about this before. Part of the deal is there is a sense in which, watching Mass on TV, which I know a lot of people are doing that, right? And that's really good. I know a lot of you have written in that you've got your Sunday routine now where you sit around and watch Mass, maybe on the St. Patrick's page. But there is a sense in which we lose a little bit of the communalness there. And so one of the things that this allows, if we actually do Mass live for the Holy Week liturgies, is that you can know that in some way, at least, the best we can do right now, you are able to participate with everybody else in the parish at the same time. Now, although it's going to be live, as you know, with the way Facebook and everything works, it'll be out there as the recorded version. So that's why we're gonna live stream tomorrow night, Saturday evening, Palm Sunday at 5:30. Is that what we said? Mm-hmm. So 5:30 p.m. tomorrow night. You can go to the St. Patrick's Facebook page where you are right now, or go to the St. Patrick website, stpatrickkck, and the link will be on there as well. So if you've been maybe watching recorded, this might be an opportunity for these liturgies of Holy Week, because it'll be Holy Thursday, Good Friday, Easter Vigil too. This might be a time where maybe you actually want to gather to watch it live, just so we know that, because Father Mark and Father Michael and I, we're going to be alone in the church, and it would be nice to know, as I look out at my little camera with its red light, to know that behind the little red light are like all of St. Patrick's Parish. Mm-hmm. So that's important for us, but it's also, I mean, you would be able to leave little messages, although I don't know what canon law says about, leaving live stream messages during Mass, but I suppose you could. But that way we could kind of know that we're all in it together. So 5:30, Saturday, tomorrow, Palm Sunday, we are going to be live as it happens from the church. So maybe this is the time to do it.
And then again, with the grateful help of Shawn the Baptist Studios, we'll do it again on Sunday in Spanish, en español, a las 12:45 at 12:45 in Spanish. So
y después de este programa, tenemos Palabras con los Padres a 7:30. So, Los Latinos.
Another program, we're going to do some Spanish stuff at 7:30 after this program.
That's what I said.
I know, but the English people don't know that.
Oh, sorry.
So
you got a book of scripture.
Well, I just thought we could maybe just spend a minute and just talk about. Did I leave my notes here? It is very interesting how if we were having Mass, or you might see tomorrow at the Mass, you'll see our lectors, because we are going to have, actually the lectors for the English Mass will be Father Shawn, Deacon Dave, and I. But we'll each have a booklet here, and we've created this because the couple interesting things about the Passion. Maybe you, when you were raised as one of, grew up, maybe you've grown up always reading the crowd part and always saying, crucify him, crucify him. Well, I would propose that's not a good liturgical experience of entering into the Word, because really we're invited to resonate with the whole Passion and with all of the characters in the Passion. And the Passion is amazing because it is the original memory of Jesus. It was the very first thing that the community put together. They remembered Jesus. How did he die? It was after they had formulated some core Passion stories, then they began adding the stories of all of his miracles and the other things he did. But the core is the Passion. So when we proclaim the Passion, we're all invited to enter into it. And this time we'll be proclaiming Matthew, which we rotate. Matthew in year A, Mark in year B, and that's quite a nice one. I'm partial to the Passion according to Mark, but imagine why. Mm. And then the Passion according to Luke is in year C. We did that last year. And then we always do the Passion of John on Good Friday. So this year we're going to have Matthew. And one of the phrases you'll hear a lot in Matthew's Passion is to fulfill what was said by the prophet, because that's a really important notion for Matthew. So it actually starts in the very first reading that we're not going to read, the Matthew 21, where Jesus comes into Jerusalem on the foal of a donkey. Actually, they use that 3-word, the foal of an. Can you say that on here?
I think he means ass.
There you go. So, but Matthew says to fulfill what was written by the prophet, I believe it was Zephaniah, who said he will come meek and lowly riding on a donkey.
To the foal of a.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's something you'll always see in St. Matthew. When you hear the scriptures this Sunday, you will hear over and over again, like when after Judas, this is the version where Judas goes out, and he might do that in all of he might take his life in all of them. But in this one, Matthew will say, this was to fulfill what was said by the prophet Jeremiah, that I'd have to look at the exact text.
Right.
This book right here is one of my favorite toys from the seminary, and it is where it lays out the what are called the Synoptic Gospels, and that syn, S-Y-N, means the same, because 3 of them are very much the same, and it has Greek on this page, has English on this page. And I really like this resource because you can compare the different parts of the gospel. And
I think that's an important thing that you were mentioning at the beginning about who does the readings and whatever, that this is a gospel, just like at every Sunday Mass. We have the first reading and the psalm and the second reading and that other verse before the gospel. And this is a reading from the Holy Gospel. So it's not like a passion play, that kind of gets interjected in there. At some points in history, people were actually trying to act it out or do things, and the church said, no. This is not like a dramatic representation. The fact that it could be read by three different people is a nice liturgical thing, but the preference is that it would be read by actually three deacons, because as we know at Mass, it's a cleric, a bishop, priest, or deacon who reads the gospel. So if you were to watch the Good Friday liturgy from Rome, for instance, which will be, I don't know what this will look like this year. It's going to be interesting. But the gospel on Good Friday, for instance, is always chanted, the St. John Gospel, the St. John Passion, by three deacons. So just because there are crowd parts, which technically aren't really part of it, it's really broken down into three readers that it envisions would be three deacons. So when the priest does it, of course, normally in a parish you have one priest and maybe not a deacon. So there you can use lay people. It's the only time where lay people get to read the gospel at Mass. There was one time where I had in my parish, there was like a freak snowstorm or something, and there were no lectors. And so I got up there, and as the only cleric in the building, I read the entire Passion, a reading from the Passion of Jesus Christ according to John, and I just read the whole thing straight down, just like we would the Gospel at Sunday Mass. So it's important as we do this that we realize whenever the Gospel is read, we're meant to see that the Holy Spirit is the author. So it's not just a kind of a passion play sort of thing. We're meant to listen with our hearts and our spirits to see what God has to say to us, even if we've heard the Passion every year. And I know some people are tending to think, do we have to stand through this whole thing?
I think we also listen with our eyes too, which is why I encourage whenever possible. The whole idea of having a missalette to read the scriptures along with that is a terribly modern idea. And for centuries, for most of its life, the church listened to the proclamation of the gospel. So many of our gospel stories and our Old Testament narratives. Now, the letters of Paul would be an exception, perhaps. They were meant to be proclaimed orally and out loud. They were not meant to be studied. Nobody had a book before the 1600s. There were no books, and then they couldn't read. Right. Until just very recently. So sometimes when we have our head stuck in the book, really a good proclaimer of the word, lector, my goal is always to try and get the people to listen with their eyes by watching me make the proclamation.
Excellent.
Now, when you mentioned the three readers, so because I'm learning from Father Shawn on this as well, the three readers, would they just take turn reading chunks of the Passion, or if it's not divided up into parts, how would they do that?
So traditionally, the way it is done is it is divided into parts. They have Latin titles, so chronista, literally the timekeeper, the chronicler. Right. He's what we call the narrator. And then there is the voice that takes a lot of. So
tomorrow I'm going to be the voice, by the way.
He is the voice, and I get to be Jesus. Ironically, I get crucified, and he lives. But anyway, so there's Jesus, of course. Right. And they each have their own kind of pitches. So it's interesting in the St. John Passion that the whole chant is in the Missal, and the narrator singing at a really high voice up here, and Jesus is very low down here when he comes in. It's you can Google right now. Not right now. Wait till we're done. But when we're done, go Google Good Friday Passion Vatican, and you can listen to this. The three deacons chanted, and Father Mark is checking his watch because he's like, it's at 7:00. Yeah. The Shawn the Baptist, the show does not have to end in half an hour.
Very good. I'm enjoying this.
I think that people are enjoying it, and let me know when you want to get questions.
Well, and I just have one other point, because Passion Sunday is it the only time in the year when we have the Philippians hymn? St. Paul's letter to the Philippians.
Although he was in the form of God, he emptied himself.
That is just like the best summary of all that we believe. Jesus' total gift of self, though he was in the form of God. He did not deem equality with God something to be grasped, but he emptied himself and being like a slave, accepting even death on the cross. I'm shortening it. And because of this, God super exalted him. And so, see, I think that's what we celebrate during Holy Week, which is why we don't talk about a passion play.
Yeah.
We talk about, we are participating in and living this very mystery. And oh my gosh, never more so than this week in which we are entering. It's
Yeah.
so the Philippians hymn is always, to me, one of the most beautiful. We just coincidentally pray that every Saturday night in the Liturgy of the Hours.
True. Yeah. And one thing Father Mark is talking about there, his love of that particular verse, and one of my favorite ones. We start off Holy Thursday, and I'm going to do a little show each of the Thursday, Friday, Saturday of Holy Week, but the very first words that begin the Triduum. So we end Lent on Thursday evening. So trivia question for all your liturgical parties out there. When does Lent end? In the modern Mass, Lent ends Thursday evening with the start of the evening Mass of the Lord's Supper. But the very first words of the Mass, the introit, that we often replace with an opening hymn, the very first words that start off this celebration of the great 3 days is, we should glory in the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ. In him is our life, our hope, and resurrection. In him we are saved and made free. And I love that. There's some beautiful settings of that. We should glory in the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ. It's all very kind of triumphant. And what a way to kind of begin that sacred Triduum, that the cross is all through it. So it's not like on Holy Thursday we go to the upper room and like, oh, well, we'll reenact the Last Supper, and then on Good Friday we'll pretend that Jesus is gone again. And like, no, it's all the whole Paschal mystery through it. Death, resurrection of Jesus. We know Easter is coming, even on Good Friday. We know on Holy Thursday what happens next. And so we live out the whole thing. And so it's a really beautiful, it's the most wonderful time of the year, quite frankly. It's not Christmas. This is the most wonderful time of the year.
And we are, I think it is going to be a very rich week for all those who choose to enter in, because we have ample, countless, unprecedented examples. Super abundant examples of picking up our cross, dying to things that we used to do, letting go of things that were familiar. And I promise you an Easter miracle, because that's what I always tell people. If we participate, this is normally my homily for Palm Sunday. If we go through Thursday, Friday, Saturday, commemorating these mysteries Father Shawn has talked about and acknowledging they are part of us, we will have an Easter miracle. So
wonderful, and that's what we're all looking forward to. And it's easy in these kind of times where things are, we talked about coronavirus maybe going to peak, not yet, and we're still getting there, that it's easy to focus, I think, on a lot of things that are suffering right now and things that are going wrong. And, Easter is supposed to be this incredible time that we all look forward to. And I think a lot of us are maybe looking right now with a little bit of sadness to say, well, we can't even get together to celebrate Easter. And I thought about this this week when I was writing the bulletin article for Easter Sunday. And just the idea that you think of the way Jesus' ministry went. He was small and insignificant in the time in Nazareth, and then he came on the scene in his public ministry, and things just blew up, and he had these crowds, and he's feeding 5,000 people at once, and he can't even move about openly, and so the church is growing and growing, and much that the disciples think, this is great, he's gonna confront the Romans, and everybody's thinking it's just going up and up and up. And then by the time we get to Good Friday, we're down to St. John, St. Mary Magdalene, his mother Mary, and a couple other women. Like the huge crowds of church have been reduced down to this little group that we know that after that, they're hiding in a little upper room. Doors are locked. They're scared. And I think of a lot of us right now with coronavirus. Maybe we're locked in our little houses and we're hiding and we're scared of a virus. And on that first Easter, then Jesus walks to the doors and says, "Peace be with you. It's me." And from there, the church goes from hiding back out to even bigger than it was when Jesus was there, and now it's at every corner of the world. So I think we're living that out a little bit. We are, we've loved the fact that the church is just everywhere, and we're everywhere, and now it's sucked back in where we're hiding in our little houses again. But Easter is going to come. Maybe not on the liturgical day of Easter this year, but whenever this virus is ended and we can come back out.
Well, Easter will come.
I have no power to do away with Easter, nor does Pope Francis. Although people asked Pope Francis, could we transfer Easter? And amazingly, and credit to this, Pope Francis says, no, we cannot transfer Easter. Easter is going to come. Even if it's to those locked in our houses for fear of coronavirus.
Well, and especially to us.
Especially at this time, we need Easter. So will there be an additional celebration when the virus is ended and we can all come out and play? Absolutely. But we have every bit as much reason to celebrate this year on Easter as we ever have, because
yes,
Jesus
amen.
is stronger than death, and definitely stronger than coronavirus. So, all right, do we want to look at some questions?
Sure. Did you mean, is there somebody listening?
Well, let's see. On the St. Patrick page right now, we got 52 people.
Wow.
On the Shawn the Baptist site, 50. So we have about 52. And let's see. So let's look at the St. Patrick's people, since we have Father Mark here with us. Oh my goodness, we have a lot of questions. Let's see. We have a lot of greetings. Shout out to Betty Ann Batson and Teresa Smith. They're our staff members here, and they are so dedicated trying to work from home right now. This is a real thing for all of us.
That was, you're welcome, Mark. That was the secret mass. So that was my private mass. They happened to eavesdrop on that one. No, it was a good thing. It was legal. We did not.
Oh, he deleted his comment. Okay. When will the second-year students have their confirmation?
Yes, that's a wonderful question. And we just met with our DREs the other night. And the answer is we don't know. We really don't know. There will definitely be a confirmation, and whether it will be this summer or this fall, we're going to wait for the Archbishop's office to tell us.
We need the guy with the hat and the stick
to
do that. Teresa Smith, like a good adult faith coordinator, I guess, asks, do you encourage the laity to join small faith-sharing groups? No, absolutely not. Whatever you do not talk about Jesus. No. Teresa's baiting us with her question. Of course. If we can't get together in big groups right now, could we get together in small groups? And no, 6 feet apart, social distancing, Zoom.
You've got to do, you have to balance, because I was on a conference call with the mayor, and we really have to try. We're not trying to outsmart the ordinance or the shelter in place order. We're trying to outsmart a coronavirus, which takes when people come from different places and come together. That's how it gets transmitted. So I'd say for now, small group sharing, I would recommend conference calls, Zooming. Actually, we want to try and resist the coming together from different places where we've been exposed. I kind of pretty much assume Father Shawn or I or Father Michael, one of us has the virus, because we're just out and about sometime, because we did baptisms, I did a funeral, things like that. Yeah. So I just try, and I'm not visiting my father. Well, they won't let us, but even if they would let us, I wouldn't visit him, because we just have to wait a couple weeks. But by all means, see if you can creatively think of some way to do faith sharing. And maybe it's through an email. Maybe it's through...
Yeah. In our priest, Father Mark was talking about Jesu Caritas, that are our priest prayer groups. And a lot of those priest prayer groups have been meeting via Zoom and things like that. So time to get creative a little bit. Michael Valentinez says that the St. Patrick Chin community will have a Zoom rosary at 7:30 this evening, and that Bishop Lucius is going to be with them. So how about that? We have a great Chin community here, which I mentioned.
Interestingly, Father Michael was saying, so the bishop will join us. He's going to have his 6:30 a.m. Mass, followed by the rosary, because 7:30 p.m. here is 7 o'clock a.m. there in the Chin state in Myanmar.
Prayers for the Myanmar community. Paula Felicia Torres Portillo is praying for the Myanmar community. So drive-by pickup palms. Wow, that's essential. Very good. A lot of thank yous. Do we have an online giving option? Oh my gosh, do we? In fact, I mentioned this on the show 2 nights ago. So Patty Dickinson is our business manager. Oh my gosh, she is amazing. She is...
We are on Team Patty.
Oh my gosh, shout out to Patty. So she gave me a little... She's so sweet. She gave me... Father Shawn, I know you have lots of people that watch the Shawn the Baptist show. Could you maybe put in a little advertisement? We're having a little difficulty with the money. I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. And she showed me, and she's like, well, here's the deal. Maybe you can just tell people, and it'll get across. Because we normally take in, I think she's like $15,000 a weekend or something.
20 is the...
20, something like that. So we're not a huge parish here at St. Patrick's. But she's like, last weekend, we took in like 6,000. And so that's a gap. And if you could tell people, maybe they'll be generous. So what I've done is, if you go out to the St. Patrick website, St. Patrick KCK, STKCK dot...
ST Patrick
KCK. STPatrickKCK dot...
org.
There's a big there are 3 big buttons at the top, and one of those is about the masses right in the middle, which is the center of things, and you can watch the live streams. But the one on the right says give, daughter, for those in Espanol. We need you to click on that button and give online, or if you've got your envelopes, most of those people are doing pretty good, send them in. Or if you're watching this show right now, you can go to our Facebook page and click the little link that says contact us, and we will help you. But I don't know that...
And you can, people have been putting envelopes in the door of the rectory, and that's perfectly fine. We have a little mailbox slot in the porch door of the rectory.
So there are lots of ways to contribute. Mark Gilstrap says that we complement each other well, and we would like to see Father Michael. Father Michael's very shy.
Oh, that's a good idea. Now, wait a minute. I'm seeing you got a Michael Cazares there. Oh, excuse me. Go ahead. Finish your comment there.
And I could listen to you talk for hours. I look forward to these conversations. Thank you, Deanna. That's wonderful. All right. Here's Michael Cazares.
Now, if that's Mike Cazares, who I know from Holy Cross, hi, Mike. Nice to see you. And you are saying perhaps we need this time of separation and reflection. Yeah, well, I'm pretty convinced that I think God's resetting us, and I think when we reset, we're going to do some things differently.
Lisa wants to know, what time will the palms be outside tomorrow?
Oh yeah, we're going to say by noon.
Okay, palms by noon tomorrow. Live stream mass at 5:30 with the Palm Sunday Liturgy. Catherine White says, hi, Father Mark from the White family of 8.
Hello, Overland Park. How are you? Good to see you.
8 is enough. Father Mark married us 21 years ago, says Celeste Raggi. Oh, Celeste from St. Michael's. Good to see you.
Well, now you guys actually married each other, so... I certainly helped.
Lots of people thanking us. Lots of people watching tonight. Great. I think we got to the questions. So... we've got another show to do. We've got Palabras con los Padres son las 7:30.
If you want to hear Father Shawn talk Spanish, tune in.
That was it.
It's basically, I think we'll do the same show. Follow the same timeline, but you'll just hear it all in Espanol. I'm
going to try. I don't do so well, but I'll try. Okay. So I think, Father Mark, thanks for joining us tonight on the Shawn the Baptist Show. People really seem to like that. Which means that I think I'm kind of boring by myself, honestly, and I try to keep things going, but I do better when you're here, quite frankly. Otherwise, I've got to interview like Derek and Madeline, our cats, and I can't get Harrison Butker every night. So I think you made this show a lot better tonight. So thanks, everyone, for joining tonight. This is the Shawn the Baptist Show for April 3rd, 2020, the Friday in the third week of pandemic time. We will be back tomorrow night live again at 6:30 p.m. for those watching that are of the Latino persuasion.
Will you be able to do that tomorrow? Because you're going to actually be working. You might have to...
I take that back. We will be celebrating a Palm Sunday Liturgy tomorrow. So... at the conclusion of the Palm Sunday Liturgy tomorrow, after I've worked so hard and given myself to the service of God in the liturgy, I will come and be with my people on the Shawn the Baptist Show. Okay, I see the little light things going off, yay, like little fireworks. So, okay, I will do the Shawn the Baptist Show after the Palm Sunday Liturgy. Kind of like those little things after the baseball game ends and they kind of do a little post-game thing? This will be the post-game of the Palm Sunday Liturgy.
So the time will depend on how long the preacher preaches.
I'm also the preacher, so it will depend largely on me.
Father Shawn is going to we're going to record my homily as well, but maybe we'll record that before, but then it'll get posted whenever those things get posted.
Okay, so that's the plan. Tomorrow night, I keep forgetting what day it is. It's Friday, and so tomorrow is Saturday, so... we're coming to Holy Week starting tomorrow evening, and so we will have live streamed here the liturgy of Palm Sunday. The blessing of palms does not take place this year, so we will be putting out blessed palms for people to come by the west door of the church here at St. Patrick's and collect by noon tomorrow, so you can come and do that. The Shawn the Baptist Show tomorrow will be live, but it will follow the Palm Sunday Liturgy, so if you want to know when that is, live stream the Palm Sunday Liturgy. Check that out. It'll also be live streamed right here on our Facebook page at St. Patrick KCK, and on the Shawn the Baptist Show is, of course, live every night, both on the Shawn the Baptist Facebook page and the St. Patrick webpage. So we thank you for joining us here tonight this is Father Shawn the Baptist, with Father Mark Mertes, the former intergalactic responsible of the Jesu Caritas Confraternity of Priests. And I extend to you tonight our warmest blessings. Thank you for joining us, and may the blessing of Almighty God, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit come down on you and remain with you forever. Saint
Amen.
John the Baptist,
Pray
for
for
us. Good night, everybody.